Now, in general, knives don't change all that much, and you don't usually get surprised by a new knife if you've been in the hobby for a little while. But when I unboxed this knife, the Nightshade by Vosteed, I really did find something completely different. This is not a shape that I've ever seen in a folding knife before, and once you start using it, you realize just how genius it really is. Now, I've been following knife makers for a while now, and generally speaking, it's a lot of the same stuff. I don't want to be unfair about it, but generally speaking, it's similar. I don't see anything that really raises my eyebrows and makes me think, oh, that's kind of different. But when I saw this, I definitely was skeptical. And it definitely seemed like a different blade shape than I've seen in a folding knife. Now, I've seen similar things in fixed blades, but not folding knives. So I didn't know how it would work, especially with the flipper tab. And so I reached out to the company and asked them would they consider sending one out, and they did, which is great. And I really appreciate that. I'm not going to try to let that affect my opinion, but I will mention that when I went and initially talked with them, I was a little bit skeptical about this knife. But from the beginning, including the unboxing experience, which is quite nice, it really did surprise me. Now, between the aluminum tin, the cloth the cloth zipper pouch, and the little card, it was a good start. But it was when I started putting my hands on the knife that I realized something really special was going on with this. First of all, it's one of the most comfortable handles that I have experienced in any folding knife. And once I started using it, well, we'll talk about that in just a minute. So for starters, let's go ahead and get to some stats. So this knife comes in, give or take, just under 3.5 inches in blade length. And it's a pretty short knife when closed, actually. They did a really good job with the ratios, and this is only coming in at just around a little over 4.25 inches in total length when closed. But it acts like a much, much larger knife. I will say this. Now, the other things that are of note is this actually has a crowned spine, which really does look quite nice and is very comfortable when you're putting your hand far up on the blade, which you can do because of the way the handle is shaped. And it also has a deep carry pocket clip that is fully recessed into the G10 handle scales with recessed screws, which I really like. I also really like this style of clip, which is a single bend and then a single bend up. That seems to be basically the best pocket clip shape that I've experienced, that doesn't catch onto things as I'm walking by and lays incredibly flush against the pant leg. So that's really nice. I like that. I do wish it had been available for left-handers. I mean, I don't need it personally, but it would have been nice to say that this is ambidextrous as well. The other things I want to mention is these come with T6 body screws, which would love to be T8, but it's not the end of the world. And it has a contoured G10 handle scales. That's pretty much all you need to know. And it also has hollowed out liners. This, of course, is a liner lock with the lock tab being really open and easy to access. Almost dropping the knife. But yeah, very, very easy to open and close this knife. And speaking of opening and closing, check this action out. That's what I'm talking about. That is excellent. And, when I got it, I didn't realize that this knife was made by an OEM. I'm going to interject with a correction here. This knife is actually now made in-house. So they are borrowing equipment but using their own engineers, their own mechanics, and they are able to get a much more hands-on approach to this knife. Really, really impressive work. Ergonomics are excellent. All the edges are finished. Yeah, really well done. I also really appreciate that even though this is a relatively new company, Vosteed, they made the text on this very, I'm not trying to think of the word, but it's minimal, right? There's not a lot going on with this. They're not trying to brand themselves all over the place. Oh, knife. or anything like that. It's a nice clean look, and especially from the front, all I get here is I get this nice little logo of the designer and just clean knife. So that's something I really like seeing on pretty much any quote-unquote budget knife. Now this is topping that scale at around $70, but it has 154 cm, which is very much a mid-range or premium steel. So I think that that's actually just about where it should be for a knife with this setup. There's a lot of little features like the crown spine and yeah, the 154 cm, and the price just makes sense. Now, the real deal with this though, what really has me surprised is its cutting performance. Starting with food prep. So my favorite food prep knife in the budget realm is the Civivi Praxis. Now the Civivi Praxis is 3 3/4 inches in length. So it's pretty long. And in fact, it's not a knife that I could legally carry in a lot of places that I go. So I don't end up putting in my pocket often. But this knife, on the other hand, coming in at under 3.5 inches is legal, and surprisingly, at least in my testing, performs equal to, and in some cases better than the Praxis, because the angle, and let me see if I can make it happen. If you look, let me do it this way. In order for me to get that angle with the Praxis, I have to go all the way up here like this. Let me bring this down a little bit. See if I can get it. Okay, so you can see I have a nice neutral position with my hand using the Nightshade. But with like the Praxis, or pretty much any knife with a curved edge like that where I'm draw cutting, I'm gonna have to angle my hand up to draw across, which isn't as controlled as holding it like so. And so for me, I actually found that this was actually a better blade shape overall to do this task, which really surprises me. But awesome, really, really awesome. But that's not where it ends. This is not the only thing that makes this geometry so sweet. If you're doing utility tasks, say opening boxes or otherwise, that, you know, edge coming and always meeting the object that you're cutting, it just makes it so easy. You feel like you have a Wharncliffe or sheep's foot design, and yet you have all the advantages of a continuously curved blade. It's really one of the most useful blade shapes on a day-to-day that I have ever experienced, not leaving anything that I found yet that it suffers from at all. And that's impressive to me. So I don't really have much more to say at this point, because I have only had it for like a week now. But holy God, this is a really good design, and I haven't really seen this before. This kukri Nessmuk thing going on. I've certainly seen people try to do the Nessmuk, but it's this curvature. It's how far the blade kind of drops relative to the handle. And it just works really well. In fact, I would love to have seen this in a thumb stud variant, maybe right where that emblem is, because then I would have even more space for an actual handle, and I think it would have been even better in that shape as well. But as it is, pretty awesome as a flipper. And I'm not always a flipper fan, but because of the way this sits, let me see if I can showcase this a little bit better. Because of the way this sits, the thumb flipper tab, it never gets in the way of the blade. And because of that, it kind of sets itself apart from a lot of the other knives out there. All I can say is you really want to check this one out. This is one you don't want to miss. If you get a chance to check it out, do so. Even if you end up passing it on, someone will love it. This is such a good knife, in fact. It's going to make it in my top 10. It may even unseat the Praxis, which is a really high bar, like a super high bar to have, you know, pulled out of my collection. I don't know yet which one it'll end up replacing. I might end up keeping both, but as of right now, this is ending up in my rotation and probably will for a long time. It just offers a series of functions that means I don't have to carry more than one knife. It can just kind of do it all. And for that reason, this thing rocks. Anyway, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon.